Well, hello everyone. You have right here talk about right here for what we know, from what we don't know, and basically that talks about right here of like I'm sure that most of us have seen from the previous postings I would put up talking about answers for what we like to respond to, and if we're going to be asked a question, and a lot of times that which I don't know, I'm like with everybody that for how they react to or how they give out answers. And I keep thinking though that yeah, that a lot of times that whatever that the question would go by is to where that really are you the only one who's doing this? Are you the only one who's really working this this way or that way? Are you the only one taking notes or anything like that? But let's just say if one of this was what you call one of my class assignments, and I'm like at the time you're like Warren to where at the time I don't know if I volunteered or if I'm just what you call just talking or something, but on the other hand, you have right here, like for portfolio, I'm sure most of us have remember seeing some of these, from the same postings I went and worked on. But talk about for a grade point average, and as long as for aid though, and that basically that could also mean for financial aid. So we're like Warren to where that yeah, that whenever a kid grows up, that they want to have maybe a certain toy or something to play with, as well as they want to learn and educate as well. While they're going to school, you'll have friends, you'll make friends, and then you'll get a good education, get a good paying job, and at the time you're like Warren to where that for anything related to to where that yeah that for at the time that when we're talking about something, and then the next thing you know, it's like that an answer may seem a little bit different, compared to what somebody expects. But I use right here for only right here is to where that if this was an example right here of like say some work that I put together, and that somebody finds it, and then they may warrant to where what's this all about? Like, and well, I don't know why. Like, well, I seen it. I'm like wondering, what this is, and I'm just kind of curious about it. Like, and well, because and then we wonder to where what does that usually mean to where that whenever people get mad and frustrated and happy at the same time. So let's just say to where that they give you answers, and some of these answers that could be what you call dishonest answers compared to what you call the real positive answers. And one of those will be is to where that hey, well, where have you been? You've been gone for about 25 minutes, or that something like you working something. But and I know that with anybody that while they were working on something, and it seems like almost all the time to where that any of your work, maybe not all your work is going to be visible to everyone. So you're like Warren to where that you were working on something, and that you were thinking about maybe putting it up maybe on Facebook, or maybe talking about it over chat, or maybe any kind of discussions or anything like that, maybe over the phone. And you're like Warren to where that yeah, well, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, questions still kind of go in your mind to where, oh yes, it's a good idea, or no, not such a good idea. So the way I think about it, though, whenever I look at some of these childhood photos, and I can maybe use them for maybe a number of reasons, but one of those will be like as to where that whenever somebody asks you a question, it just seems like to where that hey, that's what you call answer that answer wrong, or answer right, or anything like that. But anybody that may want to where that yeah, that what you call part two. But I'm like, well, it's just like what you call an additional add-on to where that from talk about from what we know, what we don't know. But on the other hand, that you see right here, for only, and as well as for GPA and GPA scores, as well as like for any additional assistance. So let's just say that like anybody, that if they're going to be wanting to move a certain pace compared to maybe a few other students, and fewer people think that, oh yeah, well, if you're running behind, that's your problem. But on the other hand, that the question could go by as to where that we see right here, as I include right here for a student's account, yes and no answers, and as well as for post-paid. I was also thinking about using the post, for like paid training. But on the other hand, that if somebody were to come up to you see these advertisements right here, and they would be like, Is it really postpaid? Your students' accounts, is the accounts free? Like an yes or no? Like an what does that mean? Like a well, yes, it's postpaid, but then no, it's like then not not at the moment. There's limitations to where that per day that there's about maybe 5 students or so that are trying to get something completed, as well as they trying to get something done, and as well as for anything else that needs to be done as well. So you're like Warren to where whenever I look at some of these, and especially like for college funds, always that look at these, and you're like Warren to where that when people respond to yes and no, but other than maybe, but you're like Warren to where that really that yes and no, I didn't know that those can be combined. If they could be combined, it kind of puts your mind into different directions. But let's just say that with my response would be like to where if I was going to be in the classroom with about maybe 10 other students, and at the time that they ask you the question, and then sometimes that you're like, well, that they say that, well, this is not like a game like Wheel of Fortune to where they may only give you 10 seconds, to try to solve a puzzle, and if not, and then they go to the next player or whichever. But on the other hand, that you see right here are pictures that were taken either from like special occasions or visits, or that they were like school pictures. I'm using these as examples right here for like from what we know and what we don't know, and basically that there may be a lot of things that maybe we don't know. So you're like Warren Tour at the time that when somebody asks you a question, what are you asking me for? Yeah, I'm not the governor, I'm not the manager. But on the other hand, that sometimes when people ask questions, I guess, are they really wanting the feedback, or they want the response just because they want somebody to talk to, maybe that they're lonely or anything like that. So you're like Warren to where that whenever somebody asks a question, and sometimes it's like, I don't know if they look at maybe the question as to where, really odd or bizarre or anything like that, the way they ask it. And one question that more likely they could be is to where that they may ask is to where, why were you wearing pants during the daytime or something like that. And then on the other hand, the other one could be as to where that, hey, how come that you have your hair dyed orange in this picture? I did not have my hair dyed. If I did, then more likely I would probably say like that's something that, for the the looks, from for how I was dressed. So whenever people ask you a question, and sometimes do we use like these quotation, like as if they want to call it like quotation marks, that if we want to put those at the end of a sentence to where that yeah, a sentence phrase as well as with the question. So let's just say that on average to where that this right here would have been like, which says the only document that would be displayed. But then it's like for only is to where that people only see this. But it's like, and then it goes like, nope, you can't go to the next part because only basically means that to where that this is, you basically is to where that basically means to where one only a certain type of I guess if you want to call it like orders or restrictions, like towards to where that basically that only could maybe mean a number of things. But let's just say that if somebody were saying that, yeah, well, you are the only one who can maybe remember, or that you are the only one who can really talk about this, but answer a few questions or so. So you're like Warren to where between postpaid and as well as for yes and no answers. So you're like Warren to where that the answer could be yes and no, but you're like, well, I'm expecting a yes or no answer. Like, well, right now it's going to be yes and no. Like, well, give me a yes and a no. But then on your hand, that please give me an explanation to where that a certain answer to where yes, this situation, but then no, because of that particular reason. So whenever we answer any questions, and thinking about necessarily if it's going to be about education, right? So you're like Warren to where anything educational reasons to where it's like they're trying to be honest best we can. Thanks for watching.